Hello everyone. So welcome to our daily news analysis. As always, we are referring to the Hindu newspapers, Delhi edition. Okay, so on the front page we have the elections have started for the office of president. So that was there. Then over here we see the issue of this Zubair, Mohammed Zubair, who is the founder of the Alt News. So he has been there in the news for quite some time. Now, Supreme Court has made an interesting observation. They say that the cases that you're filing again and again, especially in Uttar Pradesh, it is like a vicious cycle. It is taking place one after the other. It seems like the state is being vindictive. They didn't really use this term, but look at they have made an analysis of the FIRs. So they say, one time we give this person a bail, so you register a case on this second case. Moment we give a bail, you again arrest him on a different ground. So continuously you are doing this, and they have said that the content of each FIR is more or less similar. So this is a very important theme. I mean, don't really directly say it, but the issue of objectivity or neutrality of the police forces. So, need for police reforms. So, that is one thing. Misuse of authority with reference to criticism or dissidents. Freedom of press of the journalists. Freedom of rights of the journalists. So, these we have over here. Okay, so second monkeypox case. So, let's revise this again. So, monkeypox. So with monkeypox, it is actually a rare this thing. It's a rare disease caused by infection with the monkeypox virus, which is very, very similar to the smallpox virus. Okay, fatality rate is very, very low, but yes, it has taken place. And typically we find pimples, blisters that appear on the different parts of the body. So that may take place. Now again, something important for your pre, it belongs to the orthopox virus genus, which includes the variola, that is for smallpox, as well as the vaccinia virus. So these are some important facts which you should know, right? Basic elements of the any disease that is there in the news, you should know. Okay, so we're done with the smallpox. Let's move on to the next. So Maharashtra Chief Minister appoints new Sena panel, SPPs. Okay. We have the Delhi Chief Minister who has criticized the GST. GST has been introduced on the food items like milk, rice, wheat, pulses. So that is being criticized upon. He's saying that the food inflation is already very high. Plus you have added 5% GST on that. Then he's criticizing the World City Summit. So, Delhi's Chief Minister, I don't know why Delhi Chief Minister requires the permission of the center. So that is there. Okay, World City Summit, we had done this. It's organized by the Singapore government. World leaders come, mayors of the cities, administrators, corporates, so all of them come and discuss over there. Okay, so Jahangir Puri, the same violence that had taken place. Next is over 14,000 get a fresh lease of life at the Har de-addiction center. This news as such is not important. What is important is, the need for a drug policy. De-addiction from what? De-addiction from drug, or de-addiction could be from liquor, right? So de-addiction. So I'm just talking about the drugs over here. So from GS1, for instance, GS1 drug issues, so that is there, and then GS3 internal security. But one thing is like the consumption of the drugs are increasing. So what measures should the government take? The need for a drug policy. Now, one criticism of the approach of the government over here is that government is looking at addressing the supply side issue. They are like the Narcotics Control Bureau, so all policing. So it is about people who are consuming drugs or people who are supplying drugs, they will be caught, which is fine. But we have to also focus on the demand side aspect of drug consumption. So demand side means de-addiction, people not demanding ultimately, or education, awareness, so all those things. Okay, so quickly, we are going down. You know, this Aravali has been shown over here. So what comes to my mind is the need for preservation of Aravali. This is a theme, and Aravali are being cut, to get those stones, etc. So they are being cut. Developmental activities are taking place, but because of this, there is a risk because Aravali's, if you imagine, to the west of Aravali's, you will find the desert. So if the Aravali's are destroyed or they're denuded, then in that case it will lead to desertification. The desert that is there will actually spread to the eastern side. So this is again important from the point of view of GS3. Not this ad, it's just that a thought that came to my mind. Long back I had made a video also on this. I don't have it right now. Okay. So on the right side over here, power tussle between Singh Dio, Chhattisgarh Chief Minister. So that is intensifies. So again, we have a possible issue of defection taking place, right? So kind of a defection thing is possible. SC extends time for audit of Padmanabha Swami temple. Fine. So one is audit is taking place of this temple over here, and Padmanabha Swami temple. So Padmanabha Swami temple, the deity, the god Padmanabha Swami is important, right? From that sense, because it's there in the news. And this temple is considered like one of the richest temples over here. So let's first do this. Briefly, we'll discuss the case also. It's not really required actually. So this is a Hindu temple nationally located in Thiruvananthapuram, the capital of the state of Kerala. In Tamil and Malayalam, the name of the city, Thiruvananthapuram, translates to the city of the Lord Ananta. And from this, actually, the name Padmanabha Swami has come. So this depicts the Dravidian style of architecture, the intricate fusion of the Chera style and the Dravidian style of architecture over here. Right, so this is important. Okay. Now this thing over here, the issue basically is that the temple authorities, this temple administration, the control over the treasures of this temple, it's one of the richest temple, has about $1 trillion worth of money over here. So the ruling family of Travancore, so Travancore's ruling royal family, so which used to rule over this region, so they have claimed, they had claimed the shepherdship of the properties. So shepherdship means that they will be overall in charge of what all is happening over here. They will look over this thing, right? So they had asked for this. They went to the court, and the court agreed that fine, this belongs to this. The right of overseeing these properties belongs to the royal family. This was agreed upon, but it also said at that time that there should be a special audit of the temple. How much money is there? What all resources are there, so that has to be audited, right? So this is it. This is a complete article on the Indian Today, but you don't really have to read it. Okay, so this is there. Then again, what we find is, look at it from the point of view of fundamental rights. We find that the religious institutions, we find state intervention in the administration of religious institutions. So the Indian model of secularism, right? So the administration, the government, the judiciary can intervene in the management of religious institutions. So our model of secularism allows for intervention. The Western concept is different, that there is a strict separation of religion and the administration. But here we can do that. But here again, please take note that it is about the secular functions, like maybe about public order, stampede does not take place, or in this case, financial matters. So secular matter, non-religious matters of the temple. Right. And sometimes also on religious matters. For example, the Sabrimala case, entry of women into the temple. Interpretation of customs in light of the fundamental rights. Not important. I was reading this, but not really important. These two articles caught my attention. Sharing power with the next generation. It was a. I want you to actually read the complete article. It's not like I will give you an overview. It's just that I feel that this article is a good material for your comprehension essays. You know that the essay, the CSAT paper that you have comprehension. So part of introduction or conclusion is removed and they give you, and then you have topics over there. So that is how your passages are actually made. Growth and welfare. This was good. These, I mean, a revolt that could turn into a revolution. Not interested. India's climate imperative. So, what should India do for public pressure to drive climate action? We need to consider climate catastrophes as largely man-made. So, I'm not doing this. We'll get enough opportunities of doing this also. But this was pretty interesting. And here, not really, but we get some content which is of use, which we can use it quite frequently in our answer writing. So I'm not doing the complete article. Okay. So the concept, there are few themes that have been touched upon over here. So as the heading goes, sharing power with the next generation. Next, you read, a new idea of intergenerational justice is gaining traction as better way of producing a more equitable global order. So let's break it up. So first we have the intergenerational justice. So from one generation to the other generation, right? So normally as a principle of sustainability, we ask this question, like what are we leaving for the next generation? That concept is there. We should use our resources sustainably. We should be mindful of the next generation. So we talk about these things. So that is intergenerational justice. We should not leave a polluted world or deforested world for the next generation, because that will be injustice for the coming generations. So that is intergenerational justice, and it is at core of the principle of sustainability, right? So intergenerational justice. Now, when I was actually giving you these examples over here, we was talking from our perspective or the present generation, that what are we leaving for the next generation? What the author is proposing is that the idea should be that we should be actually receptive. We should ask the other generation that what do they want. So that is one thing. The second thing is that the youth should be involved, or the next generation should be involved in the matters that concern them. So involvement of the next generation should be there. Got it? I hope this is clear. So we find, look at the politics, look at everywhere. That's a very Asian population that is there. So in the representation of youth is very, very low. Okay. So that is one perspective over here. Now you read this again. A new idea of intergenerational justice is gaining traction by way of producing a more equitable global order. Now, what this is saying is that it's talking about the global order, and it is saying that post World Wars, especially World War II, we created a series of institutions like the United Nations. So United Nations was created that we do not have conflicts like we were having in the previous generations. So such things should not take place. Ukraine-Russia war is taking place. UN has not been very successful. Syria war is taking place. UN Security Council not very effective. Likewise, the reconstruction of the post-World War world, the Bretton Woods was created. Right, so Bretton Woods twins, so World Bank, long-term loans for capital creation of particular countries, and we had the International Monetary Fund, which looks into the monetary stability, like currency depreciation, monetary currency related aspects. They look into that. Any country that wants support, like Sri Lanka, like Pakistan, they provide that. Any country which is on the verge of bankruptcy. Okay, so they have not been very successful either. Plus, we find that these institutions were found by countries that had won the war. They had won the war, they were the developed countries. So, in a way, they are like the prior generation. the next generation of the countries, like the third world countries, India, China. China has gone way ahead actually. In India, Pakistan, African countries. So these are the next generation of countries. So if we want to address this problem, we should have a more equitable global order. We should have more representation of the next generation of countries in the world politics. So if that is there, then we will have a more equitable global order. Naturally, equitable also means equality, and everybody is getting benefited. So one of these are actually strong criticisms of all these institutions. Look at the representation of UN. Also, it is technically it is said that it is democratic, but when something has to be done, it is done by the United Nations Security Council, and there the representation is of those countries who won the war. India, being such a populous country, does not have a permanent membership at the UNSC. Okay, so this was one aspect. I feel that this could be like the way questions are being asked, an essay topic also. Okay, now look at this concept over here. Outside in and top down approach. So a new theory of change, outside in and top down. So what does this mean? And I was pretty interested, because a developmental approach, what such questions like governance. So I was looking from that perspective over here. So outside in and inside out approach. So outside in, typically the approach is like there is this inside out approach that we are looking first at ourselves, be it a country, be it any institutions, and then we are providing those services accordingly. Outside in is when we are looking at what other people want. So what are the requirements of the market? This is corporate listing, but from country's perspective also, let's say United Nations. So United Nations, if it is having outside in approach, then UN thinking, okay, fine, these are certain problems that are there in the world. So how should we change? We accommodate, UN accommodates according to the world scenario, according to what is there outside. So that is the outside in approach. So like business wise speaking, or from government wise also, government thinking, okay, fine, this is the administration. These are the problems that the people are facing. So how we can mold ourselves to benefit the people. Inside out is what is there with us, then we are delivering service accordingly. So that is the approach. So outside in and inside out. So an outside in approach will be appreciated. It is a better approach because ultimately service delivery, welfare of the people. So the government should focus on what is required outside and then make suitable changes. Okay, so this is it, outside in approach. So that is what it is talking about. Outside in and top down. Naturally, top down approach is not a desirable thing. So from top to bottom, that system is going. We want a bottom up approach. Right. So outside in, actually bottom up approach is more in the organization's hierarchy. So from boss, orders are flowing to the lower levels. Bottom up is from the base, you are taking feedback and action is being done. So we want a mix of top down and bottom up approach. Okay, so this is it. There is a criticism of the G7 actually, the sustainable development goals, which I really don't agree with. It's saying it's the one size. Let's move to the next article. So recently, Prime Minister Modi has twice criticized the practice of politicians. They make these promises. We know in Punjab elections took place, so we'll give you free electricity. Interestingly, we haven't had electricity quite a lot actually. So yeah, we'll give you free electricity, or we will give you free rations. You must have heard about all these promises. We will give you farm loan waivers to the farmers. So with the idea that we will provide you unsustainable schemes, so promises of ever profligate schemes, so unsustainable schemes in pursuit of votes. Naturally, free electricity, but the state electricity board simply doesn't have money. How do you? Ultimately, it will lead to a collapse. So this is not a good thing. Farm loan waivers and all those things. Government does not have money, but they're saying that we will give you more of these subsidies, more of these schemes, etc. Okay. So he says that this is obviously not desirable, and his government, which is focusing on development, which is focusing on creation of infrastructure, the infrastructure that is going to the backward areas is the true social justice. It is doing justice to the society that was already always disadvantaged. Here it has given a reference of the Bundelkhand Expressway, which has been constructed during his regime, that it is connecting the most underdeveloped regions. Naturally, the backward sections get benefit. Earlier, they were being ignored, they were being sidelined, but now they are getting the benefit of that. That is the true social justice. So, see, the theme emerges. Fine, this is ever profligate schemes in pursuit of votes is not a good thing, to be honest. So that is one thing, but it doesn't mean that the government doesn't give some subsidies or doles, especially when it is required, when it is very, very absolutely required. So it cannot be an absolute statement over here. Likewise, the development that is being done, we should also look at it from the point that fine, development is taking place, but is it actually leading to the welfare of the people? So this is what the article is actually talking about. So here, in the first part of the second paragraph, it is telling us about why the politicians are doing this. The politics of tools, apart from obviously getting the votes. So one it says is that there is a disconnect between the overall economic growth and the job creation. So obviously 7%, 8% GDP was growing before the pandemic, but jobs only 2%, 3%, the increase in jobs, so very, very low. So naturally there is a disconnect. GDP is growing at this rate, but jobs are getting created only at this rate. Then when the politicians say that we will do development, but obviously because of a poor this thing overall, they promise something, but it's not actually delivered. So voters also see it with suspicion. So they don't no longer trust this. So you say, give us what you're giving us right now. We want farm loan waivers, we'll vote for you. Just promise us that. Okay. So there is more clamor for redistribution in democracies. Right? So farm loan waivers, subsidy, fixed income to farmers, whatever. So that is redistribution. So taxing the rich, the money that the government gets, it is diverted to the poorer sections. So it is redistribution that is taking place. So redistribution is there, especially in the backdrop of the mounting evidence of inequality. Inequality is increasing, poverty is increasing, so all of that. Right. So we need to look at both the perspectives over here, that in light of this, sometimes these are justified. So we need to have a fine balance over here that the politicians will have to make, policymakers, that when is the politics of doles, or when is this doles-based economics justified? Right, so that has to be done. So yeah, the Prime Minister would have done better had he opened a debate on the impact of big projects too. Right, there may be a highway over going past my region, but if it is not benefiting me personally, like benefiting somebody who's living in the slum, then that is of no use. So we need to have a holistic debate on this. And these debates are typically asked in your GS3 mains paper. So what's data? Rice sowing hit stock awards prices. Fine, we heard about it sometime back in the newspaper when there is decline, 27% decline in the area that is under paddy cultivation. Okay, now we have the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and its stature in the modern world. So this is an explainer with us. SEO has been asked in the mains paper. It can be asked again also. So let us see, and obviously pre is also there. Let us have a look at the map only because that makes it more easy, more relatable. Yeah. So you see the map. Yeah, this is the old map now. India, Pakistan are part of this. So this entire land, so being China and Russia, are actually two big, very big countries over here. With them, the Central Asian countries. So this is the Central Asian region over here, right? So this is the Central Asian region, right at the fine. Right. So this is the Central Asian region over here. So Mongolia is not part of this. So this is important. Okay. So, UPSC can ask you questions as to which of the countries are part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, why this is there in the news is because Iran, which is not a member, so Iran is being considered for its enrollment into the SCO, and Belarus. So Belarus, we remember Ukraine war, the Russians going from the north entering into Ukraine. So that was via Belarus. So close ally of Russia. So entry of Belarus in the SEO grouping. So huge area, Central Asian, this thing is also there. Now, typically, like obviously this is for pre. Now, from mains perspective, typically from mains, how will they ask? What is the SEO? Why is it important for India? Now you can see it from the map itself why it is important for India. Because this article I was not satisfied. Okay, so you see India gets access to these countries over here, Central Asian countries. In 2015, the very year, I think it was 2017, India got into SEO. So before this, India under Prime Minister Modi initiated the Connect Central Asia policy, and Prime Minister Modi actually toured all these countries over here. So Central Asia has been a bit of an obstacle for us. Our engagement has not been very, very intense. So we were looking at this area. Okay, so this SEO will provide us a platform over here in the regional, as part of a regional diplomacy, extended neighborhood policy. So that will be beneficial. And this area is rich in natural resources. Plus, we want stability in this region because this is very close to India. Anything happens over here can have an impact on India as well. Okay, so these are primary, and yes, we are also having connectivity initiatives like the Ashgabat Agreement, the North-South Transport Corridor. So they will be going via this region and then going now northwards up till Russia. The plan is Russia, right? So that again needs cooperation with these countries. Okay, so this is there, plus region-wise, population-wise, this is very, very significant. Yeah, this is it. Okay. Now, here we get some background information about the SEO. So SEO was founded first as Shanghai 5. So it included Russia, China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. So these countries over here. Right, so this was it. And the focus was to create a platform for regional security and reduction of border troops. These countries shouldn't fight amongst themselves. China is also concerned about this. Russia is also concerned. So let's have a group. So there will be a creation of trust. Later, when Uzbekistan was enrolled, then it became the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Right? So it became SEO. Okay. Now, sometimes SEO is touted. It does a lot of things like politics, trade, economy, research. Right. Now, the SEO is touted as not merely a ratio. It is touted as a counter to the Western institutions. So it is particularly the NATO grouping. So you must have heard about this NATO. So it's counted as the replacement of the NATO over here. Furthermore, with the Ukraine war that has taken up, the Ukraine war that has taken place, isolation of Russia. So SEO is beneficial for Russia in that regard. And China also, the Chinese, because of the rapid development that has taken place, so China also wants its footing in the world order. So they want to lead an initiative. Okay, so this is it. Now, why does Iran want to get into this? Belarus, we get it, Iran. So Iran, because of all the isolations that has taken place, the sanctions that have been imposed, the Iranian side obviously wants to be de-isolated. SEO is an excellent opportunity. Now, when China says that please, this is an organization for you, you can also be part of this SEO. So Iran is okay with this. This is good idea. And this would also mean that Iran-China relationship improves. This doesn't really bode well for India because, Iran-Pakistan-India pipeline became Iran-Pakistan-China pipeline. So it's not really a good thing. And also the Chabahar port project, it could very well someday go to China also. It be India making investments, it can be handed over to China someday. Who knows? Okay, so I said yesterday there is no point of reading what is happening in the India-China talks. So here it is. Stalemate in India-China talk continues. China refuses to discuss Demchok and Depsang as India pushes for a comprehensive disengagement. This is important. Minority status in India is state dependent, says Supreme Court. So in our fundamental rights, particularly, we have two rights, that is Article 29 and Article 30. Which is about the minorities having the right to conserve their traditions, culture. So that Article 29 and Article 30, which talks about the minorities being able to have their own institutions, specifically for the minorities. Let's read Article 29 and 30 before going forward. So this is Article 29 over here. Right, so any section of citizens residing in the territory of India or any part thereof have distinct language, script or culture of its own shall have the right to conserve the same. And then we have the Article 30, which is the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice, specifically for the minorities. Right, so this is there. Now, Supreme Court has given a clarification. Actually, somebody filed a case and they said that Hindus find their overall majorities, but in certain states, they are still minority. For example, Jammu and Kashmir, which is now a union territory, but yeah, so certain areas, they are still minorities and Hindus should also have the protections under Article 29 and 30. So they said, yeah, that's fine. Because the minority status of religious and linguistic communities is state dependent. So you may be overall, like Hindus, overall majority, but in certain states you may still be a minority. So it is state dependent. It's not pan-India. For instance, minority of a Maharashtrian may be a majority in Maharashtra, but minority in some other state. Likewise for a Kannada speaking person. Right? So that is what it is said, and Supreme Court has said it's fine. Every state, minority is dependent on the population of that particular group in the overall state. So with reference to all these problems that are taking place in the plains, right? We have had a lot of issues recently. So the aviation regulator, DGCA, asks airlines to depute engineers at airports. Okay, so this is it. This is not important. Dhankar files papers for Vice President posts. Parliament adjourned on first day amid protests. Right. So discussions were to take place, but inflation, Agnipath, so that is not happening. So protest is taking place. Okay. Panel on MSP natural farming set up. I think we should just stop here. We don't really have to read this. There is a it's as simple as that panel on MSP and natural farming. And when we talk about natural farming, we have the zero budget natural farming. So this is a concept that is important. Question has not yet been asked. Okay, so this is there. And so how can we bring it into a country? How can we move towards organic agriculture? So all of that. Then it's panel on MSP. So when they say panel on MSP, it is also about bringing in MSP reforms, the need and utility of the MSP. So for us, we have enough fodder material. We really don't have to depend on the panel. It is just that panel is there, so these topics are important. Because by the time panel reports gives its report, maybe you'll be already have written your exam. Our defense exports have gone up 7 times, says Prime Minister Modi, and this is PIB. You want to see PIB? So yeah, same article, the detailed article, part of it has actually been taken away. So Prime Minister Modi is saying that obviously in defense we have been importing our equipments, but now we are exporting, and about 13,000 crores of exports have taken place. Now this he said when he was unveiling the Sprint Challenges, an initiative actually which is aimed at giving a boost to usage of indigenous technology in Indian Navy. I think you have it. There is nothing more to be done here. So it is specifically with reference to the Indian Navy. Okay, so let's do it from here only. So this is there. So sprint challenges, some 75 indigenous technologies were shown. Then some reference of a drone is there, demonstration that an electric human carrying drone was used, and these drones could be used for other activities also, apart from obviously throwing a missile. For it could be used in connecting remote areas to the medicines, doctors, logistical supply, whatever. So that can be done. So that is it. Okay, now I'm just stopping over here. Some ideas for the mains examination. So one is this: why do we need indigenization of the defense manufacturing? So that is their pros and cons of that. There are pros only. So why do we want that? What measures are the government taking to promote defense manufacturing in India? Right. So these are two themes on which UPSC can ask. Now this could be also with reference to Make in India for defense sector, a critical appraisal. Not really critical right now, but Make in India in defense sector. So that could also be asked in that way also. It can be taken up. But that is basically the measures that the government is taking. So all of this in GS3, which is economy as well as internal security. Fine. Elections have to take place in Sri Lanka. So Ranil Wickremesinghe, the acting president, to declare emergency. So Parliament will be electing new president tomorrow. Okay, so here we have Russian shelling kills 6. Yeah, coming to the business section now. So crypto law needs global teamwork. Fine. So the finance minister is saying that cryptocurrencies, as you can see, they're free flowing, they are global in nature. They are not like Indian currency. Cryptocurrency is universal. So they are, by their very definition, they are borderless. Like Indian rupee is there, it is specific to India. It's being regulated by India, Reserve Bank of India. But here crypto is different, and the very idea is to prevent regulatory arbitrage. Right? So like regulatory intervention will not be there. So the finance minister is saying that since it is such in nature that it is borderless, it is global in its very character, we need the global teamwork to global countries to work together and create a policy, and then we'll make a law on this, which implies that from the time being, the bill that was introduced for regulation of cryptocurrency will be shelved. So this is interesting because then why was the government bringing in a law or a bill to regulate the cryptocurrencies in the first place? Russia said to seek Indian oil payments in UAE dirhams. Fine, sanction is there. Rupee, ruble is again not a good idea. So why not take it in dirhams? Actually, I was expecting more of the Chinese currency to be used in trade. So this is again interesting news. So Hindalco ties up with Israeli EV battery firm. So one article is talking about there, and it is talking about aluminum air batteries expected to make EV adoption more convenient. And we have a video on aluminum air battery. Complete this thing. Okay, Ola Electric investing $500 million in cell R&D unit. Fine. So they are doing. We are investing in the technology for cell. So very, very important. No reference of what materials things will be used. So not important for pre. So all the sports news over here. And besides cricket, you have to read about other things also that are taking place. Right then, so this primarily concludes the session. So thank you for streaming in to our channel IASPrimers with me, Shubhashish. Bye bye, take care, and all the best.